Okay, welcome back. This is probably video, let's say video 3 in what I think is going to be a 4-part series on the strategies on the ways we can use the Liquid Loans protocol. If you haven't already done so, there's the previous 2 videos. The first one was really just looking at all the 3 strategies or 3 types of strategies. So low risk, medium risk, and high risk. And what you can see on the screen is the medium one that we're going to look at. And basically, we just talked about the strategies, no how-tos or anything like that. These videos are a little bit more instructional, where they actually step you through the process. So in this one, we're going to look at strategy number 2, which is what we call the speculative growth strategy. So a lot of the concepts are similar in the beginning to the low-risk strategy, but we do a little bit of a twist here, where we're getting some exposure to more speculative assets that do put us at risk of the price volatility in US dollar terms. So we just need to understand what that risk is, how we mitigate against that risk, and how it sort of differs from the first low risk strategy. I really like the first low risk strategy. It's a nice, what I feel is a nice, comfortable, safe one that people should, when they're starting out with a protocol, use. And then as they get more comfortable, they can start to do some little tweaks and some cool things that get you, let's face it, you're getting a little bit of more leverage out of the protocol. So you're utilizing the value that exists in your Pulse tokens and doing some work with them that hopefully gives you an outsized return, so you can pay down debt on your vaults and things like that, and ultimately be free and clear with your Pulse, but have just put it to work a little bit more than having it sitting around being lazy. Think of it like a home equity loan type thing, where you might withdraw some funds, do a renovation, but that gives you more value on your property and makes it worth more in the long run. So that's sort of the approach we're taking here. So what we're going to do, I've reset all the vaults and everything on our test setup, and we'll go back and we'll step through and we'll set up some vaults and show you how we can implement this strategy. So bear with me. Let's get on with that. Okay, so the first part of all of these strategies is to deposit some Pulse into a vault. So same as what we done the first time. Let's pick an amount. There we go. Better make sure I'm on the right screen here. Let's pick an amount. So put in. Let's do. Okay, so we're going to deposit 3,500 test Pulse. We're only doing small amounts here, guys. So we're just tinkering with this, and we're lucky enough that at the moment that's going to buy us about 4,000 worth of loan token, which is pretty nice. I hope Pulse one day gets to that price. And we've got a collateral ratio of about 150. Now, given we are going to be taking on extra risk in this scenario, I think you probably want to have a healthier collateral ratio than 150. I mean, I think you need that anyway, but given that we're going to be doing something with our USDL that we take out as a loan, we're actually going to be selling that for another asset. So we need to make sure that in the event that we want to sort of cover our backside, and what we don't want to do is have an emergency situation where our vault gets risky, and where we've gone and put the USDL to work in another asset, it's not the ideal time to sell it. So we want to be able to ride out some fluctuations. So in actual fact, in this scenario, what I'd probably do is I'd ramp up. Let's make it really healthy. Why did that not just change? Oh, that's right, because it's bumped this. So we'll keep this down at 3,000. So let's we'll keep it right down to 3,000, just so you can get an understanding of where we should be. Even at this range here, you're going to need to keep an eye on this vault with this strategy. But for now, that's a lot healthier than the 150. The minimum is 110, and that's the point you get liquidated. So let's give ourselves a bit of fat here. I would probably be in the early days when this is launched, and it's still very volatile in Pulse. So even 300 for me, if it's small amounts, fine, not a problem. But if I was putting anything significant in here, I would be super cautious with my collateral ratios, at least until we get some stability in the system. All right, so let's go ahead. Let's borrow this. We've assessed our risk and we're happy with that. So we'll run through, confirm that while that's confirming. So our strategy was deposit Pulse into the vault at a healthy collateral ratio based on your risk tolerance. We're minting our USDL, which is what we're currently doing now. And we're going to swap our USDL for an asset of our choice. I'm actually going to, let's do it for two. We'll get a bit of HEX and we'll get a bit of loan. Okay, so we've put some value in the form of Pulse. We've extracted some value out in the form of USDL, and we're going to convert that into a speculative asset, which is HEX and loan. And what I like about both of those assets is they're both yield producing, which flows into the rest of this strategy for me. All right, so we'll go back to our DApp and we can see we've got some USDL, so that's the debt in our wallet. We have about 4,900. I did have some surplus from prior, but let's work on the fact that we've got 3,000 to work with. Okay, the rest is by the by. So what are we going to do? Well, we're going to come across and swap our USDL. We said 3,000, so we're going to get 1,500 of loan. That gets us, let's say, roughly 950,000 loan. So we're just going to have to enable our USDL. Just bear with me. First time I've transacted with the USDL on this. Put a cap on here. I like to always put a cap. Do next. Approve that. And so once that's approved, we'll do a swap. So what we're going to swap into, we're going to swap into some loan, and we'll put that to work. And we'll swap into some HEX. I won't put that to work because obviously if I stake it, it's going to be locked and we can't unlock it easily. But you'll get the general picture. Okay, so let's do our swap. Okay. And so that's just processed, and we'll also get some HEX, $1,500 worth of HEX. Gets us 5 HEX. All right, I wish. Okay, so let's let's swap our $1,500. So obviously the pricing on testnet is a little bit funky. That's all right. We know that. All right. So let's just add HEX to MetaMask. I'm not sure if I've got that in there. Why is that not showing up there? Oh, the one that's already there. Okay. All right. So that's just processed. So in my wallet, I should have a bit of HEX there now. Cool. Now, so what are we going to do? So we said that we will put our USDL to work for us. So we're taking some of that value from our Pulse, and we've purchased some HEX and some loan. Now, I want to make use of the yield. So we're going to deposit our loan into the staking pool. Now, I think, what did we say? I can't remember how much loan we said we got. Oh, 950,000, that's right. So let's put that into the stability pool. And we'll confirm that. And then I'll explain why we've done that. All right, so whilst that's confirming, so why have we done that? Well, two reasons. Rather than leave the value we extracted sitting in USDL, which is fine, but why extract the value unless you're going to put it to work? So we've elected to purchase two speculative assets, loan and HEX. And in the case of loan, so we've got exposure to its price now, good and bad. So if it goes up, great. If it goes down, okay, that's not so great. We need to mitigate against that. But so we've got exposure to that asset as well as our original pulse. Haven't had to sell our pulse. We've still got that position, and we're hoping that the price of loan goes up in USD value. But in the meantime, we've actually taken that loan, and yes, if it goes up in capital value, happy days. But let's get a little bit of yield out of that as well while we're sitting on it. So much like the first scenario, if you've watched that video, whenever someone redeems stablecoins on the Liquid Loan protocol, we get a fee for that. We get a share of the fee. Whenever anyone takes out a loan, we get a share of those fees as well. And we can come and claim those whenever we like. So you'll see this balance will accrue. You click on the claim button, they end up in your wallet. What we can then do is a couple of things. We can take these fees, so the Pulse and the USDL, and we can go back to our Borrow tab, and we can actually put more Pulse in, but not increase our debt. So we're actually improving our collateral ratio and making that more healthy. And we can also repay back some of the debt. That will also improve our collateral ratio and reduce our outstanding debt. So if you can take some value out of your Pulse, put it into USDL, switch it into something that's working for you, pay down your Vault debt and reduce your risk, and end up holding both assets at the end that have both gone up in value, that's a pretty good win. So we haven't had to let go of our valuable Pulse. We've managed to make it grow and hopefully ended up with another asset that produces a yield long term. So if we ended up free and clear holding that loan token, and it could just sit here and collect fees for us all day, that's a nice asset to have. It's like a rental property with no tenants, no maintenance. Just sits there and pays you. I like the sound of that. So that's why I really like some of these assets. Now, that's staying within the protocol. So we haven't ventured so far out of liquid loans at all, really. We've just, instead of putting our USDL to work in the stability pool, we've elected to swap it for loan token. Okay, so that's a pretty neat thing to do. Now, we also did buy a little bit of extra HEX, and we can put that to work as well. So we could, let's see, I haven't been to here on, now we're on testnet v4. So we could take our HEX, which is not much. We've got 5 HEX, that's all right. And we might do it as a 30-day stake. Now, I'm not saying this is the way to do it. This is just an example. With this amount of HEX, it doesn't actually get you much, but you get the picture. We could do this for a 30-day stake. That way we're not too exposed to price fluctuations. We've got worst case scenario, if something happens in 30 days, we can extract our HEX and pay back the debt on our Vault. But understand, with HEX, it's a hard lock. So if there is price fluctuations in the meantime, and we need access to it, we can't. So as long as you're aware of that, that's fine. The beauty of doing the one where we staked the loan in the staking pool is, oh, there we go, we've already got some gains here already. So someone's taken a loan out, and we've just earned $2.57. Okay, so instantly we've made a bit of money there. So let's go through the process. Let's claim it. Now we're dealing with very small amounts here because we've only just done this, but let's claim our yield. And okay, just give that a second. Go through any moment. So we've claimed our yield. Yep, it's just gone through. And we would come back and repay our, what do we say, $2.57 or whatever it was. So let me just the important thing here is you'll see our collateral ratio here. This should improve. So remember 328. Let's go 2.57, I think it was. 329. So we're only talking very small numbers here, but what it's doing is it's reducing our total debt. It's improving our collateral ratio. So let's, for the sake of the exercise, let's do it. Okay, so you'd look to do a very similar thing on the HEX side. When this stake comes to maturity, you would take the interest and you could use that. You'd have to go back and swap it into USDL. So you'd have to do the reverse of this. You'd take the HEX, swap it into USDL, and then pay back your debt position, improve your collateral ratios. Okay, so I think this is a nice strategy where you can get a little bit of leverage on the value you already have. Not too risky. You're setting up yield producing assets. And eventually, like I said, if via the HEX or loan or a combination thereof, that's probably a good thing, using two of them. So we've got instant liquidity available at the loan token, not so much on the HEX one if it's staked for 30 days. So maybe you do a combo like that. Pick whatever assets you like. But as you get the yield from them, you shovel it back in here and you make yourself more healthy, because ultimately that's the way people get really, really wealthy. Don't sell your core assets. Go make it work for you. Keep growing your core assets. Yep, that's the way we can do this. Now, the risk. The risk on this one, as mentioned, is as we will not be holding a USD-based stablecoin, so we've sold it for HEX or loan in this instance, we'll be exposed to the USD price movements of Pulse and the assets we buy. So if we extracted $3,000 worth of USDL, swapped it into HEX, and then that dropped by 50%, we're underwater for $1,500 that we will never be able to pay back on our loan unless we get it from other sources, unless the price of HEX goes back up. Okay, do you understand the risk there? That's why they'll put this in the medium bucket, is we still do have an asset we could sell down. So even if the price of HEX dipped by 50%, we could, if push came to shove, we could convert that back into USDL and pay back at least a fair majority of our debt and get this collateral ratio back up so it's nice and healthy and we're not in the risk of being liquidated. So it's about protecting our pulse that we've got locked in the vault. Okay, so that's the risk here, but as long as we can mitigate against it, and as long as we're putting it to work on an asset that's giving us a good yield that we can shovel back into the protocol and reduce our debts, that's a big winner. Okay, anything else we needed to cover on that? So yeah, the strategy works well in a bull trending market. So if the price of your assets are going up, obviously that makes it easier to pay down the debt on your vault, and you're less exposed to the the USD price risk. Yeah, I think the main thing here is just do it safely, like keep your collateral ratios within acceptable means. All right, this was actually a little bit quicker, this video, than what I thought it would be. We've busted through that pretty quick. I hope you can see that although it's not as safe as the first one, still not tremendously risky, and it's still got some really nice benefits in terms of building your core pulse, building and keeping your core pulse position by just putting it to work, and especially over the course of the bull market. That's really important. All right, I think we'll leave this one here and we'll jump on into the fourth and final video, which will have a look at the high risk strategy, and we'll touch on that. But there is also a lot of information about that one out and about, but we'll give you the general gist of that. And if you're interested in taking on the higher risk strategies, I'd suggest you obviously do a lot more work, but that will be a good video at least to get you started off on the right foot. That's it for me. I'll catch you on the next video.